Linda and Cheryl are two of the three daughters of the late Reverend Oliver L. Brown, who, along with 12 other parents, led by the NAACP, filed suit against the local boards of education on behalf of their children. Upon appeal to the United States Supreme Court, the Topeka case became the lead case among 5 legal challenges under consideration by the court.
My memory of Brown began on a balmy day in the fall of 1950 in the quiet Kansas town of Topeka, when a mild-mannered black man took his plump 7-year-old daughter by the hand and walked briskly 4 blocks from their home to the all-white school and tried without success to enroll his child. The child of whom I speak was myself, Linda Cheryl Brown. Many were the evenings my father would arrive home to find my mother almost in tears because I would get only halfway to the school bus stop, which was a 7-block walk from my home. I could only make half the walk because the cold would get too bitter for a small child to bear. Time stood still as the highest court in the land pondered over Brown versus the Board of Education, until an afternoon in May of 1954, when I was in school, my father at work, and my mother at home doing the family ironing and listening to the radio. At 12:52 p.m., the announcement came. The court's decision on ending segregation was unanimous. My mother was overwhelmed, and upon returning from school, I learned of the decision, which at that time meant only to me that my sisters wouldn't have to walk so far to school the next fall. That evening in our home was much rejoicing. I remember seeing tears of joy in the eyes of my father as he embraced us, repeating, "Thanks be unto God." Today, it takes a keen eye and ear to detect the subtle areas of discrimination because it has become a matter of economic segregation.
The one thing I want to open with, though, is the realization that you cannot underestimate the impact of Brown in its ability to bridge the gap between democratic theory and historic practice. Our nation has always espoused certain values, but at a very practical level, we have really never practiced what we preach. So our hands are not clean and never have been. Power concedes nothing, and power is very patient. So over here, you may think you've accomplished something, you've made some inroads. Over here, power is just waiting for you to get comfortable, lazy, and tired before it rears its head again. Before you could really understand why we have all these civil rights acts. First Civil Rights Act was in 1875. Yet we've had many, many more because people come up with new ways to discriminate. And there have to be new laws written and put on the books to counter that behavior. But before you can understand any of this, the one thing you have to accept is that everything in our country that has happened with respect to segregation, discrimination, bigotry, and all of those things have not happened accidentally. They were all very intentional and all woven into the fabric of our nation and how we do business. So the one thing I'm asking you to understand is it is not your fault. It is not my fault. The way people have been getting along in this country, it has been part of the plan from day one, that some would have privilege over others. Understand that. But it is our responsibility, now that we know these things, to do our best to reach out to make sure it doesn't continue. Now this map I think is pretty important, and it's one of the exhibits in our park at Brown v. Board in Topeka. But this map is important because what it allows you to see is how the country dealt with this issue of racial segregation, since they saw it as an issue to be dealt with after slavery. So the states that are kind of a dark taupey tan are the states that required segregation. And then the states that permitted it in varying degrees, which included Kansas, and the states over here looks like New Mexico and Arizona and so on. And then the states where there were no specific legislation, and then segregation prohibited in blue states. Now, I juxtapose that with the map of the election. it looks very much the same. So it also says to me, sadly, I think the South won the ideological war. You know, we are all so connected, it is absolutely unbelievable. Yet we behave in these really gross and ugly ways toward each other. But Dr. King was about the beloved community of all of us, the connectivity of all of us, and how if one of us falls down, it hurts all of us if we don't stop to pick that person up.